just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. We are into week 14, which kicks off tonight with a very interesting matchup. The 6-5-1 Dallas Cowboys, who beat the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, at the 7-5 Detroit Lions, who suffered a tough loss to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. We'll get to the Cowboys in a moment, but I want to start with the home team, Lions. All this week, we've been operating under the assumption Amon-Ra St. Brown would be out. He got injured, knocked out on Thanksgiving. Even as recently, you and I were just talking, as this morning, they said he's not expected to play. He is not inactive. They are showing him warming up on the field on the Detroit Lions Twitter feed. He appears to be going. How are we feeling?
Not great, Bob. It feels like a classic distraction. Hey, we're going to put him out. We're going to have him run some routes, draw some defense away, but we're not really going to throw the ball his direction. That being said, they don't, Khalif Raymond is their third starter, and he is inactive. So Tesla should be getting a starting role tonight. Jameson Williams will play a primary role. Khalif Raymund.
Yeah, Raymond's out. So Jameson Williams, we figured, would be big. They don't have a tight end. So
Tom Kennedy and Isaac Tesla. Brock Wright also went on IR. So Ross Dwelly and Anthony Ferkser are the tight. I wouldn't be surprised to see lots of Montgomery and Gibbs. Gibbs is second in the team in receptions. We know he's a great receiver. Montgomery can grind it out on the ground, do the dirty work there. Dallas gives up the third most receiving yards to running backs. So Gibbs can work out of the slot. He can work out of the backfield in two back sets. Tesla and Jameson Williams, they're going to work Williams on the crossers, probably Tesla down the field. But you said Goff is throwing the ball low in warmups. So,
I don't know if it was, they were showing warmups. They showed Goff throwing, and then they cut over to Amon-Ra catching, and all of them were low. And I was like, all right, is this the same thing? But also, can Amon-Ra not catch a break?
Yeah. So, no, it's going to be, there's a little sadness around the Lions offensive line with Ragnow not coming back?
Yeah.
Who knew you needed a hamstring to be attached to the bone?
They're
Taylor
showing
Becker's playing like an old guy,
They're showing Amon-Ra running actual routes down the field now with balls that are actually in the air, and he looks pretty good. He's running and he's cutting. So
his injury was it's a low ankle sprain.
Yeah.
So if they wrap it up tight, give him a shot, maybe he can play through it. Maybe he plays 50% of the snaps. I'd be if I'm rostering him, though, I'm going to be scared as hell,
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back. I just took him out of all my lineups this afternoon, and now, once we get out of here, maybe while you're answering questions, I'm going to start looking, who did I replace him with? Would it be better to YOLO it or not?
Yeah, it's like the antithesis of the Lizzo song. It's maybe how you feel. scared as hell.
Yeah. Meanwhile, last week, the Lions gave up quite a bit of passing to the Packers, who I didn't think had a very good passing offense. Cowboys come to town. They have what you might call an excellent passing offense. Are you thinking it's going to be a good night for Dak, Lamb, Pickens, and Ferguson?
I mean, Dak is QB5. Pickens is wide receiver 4. Lamb is wide receiver 8 per game, and Ferguson is tight end 2. So, yeah, I think, if Dallas needs to put Detroit on the defensive, and the way they got to do that points early to make Detroit go away from the run game. If Detroit scores first and then they're able to kind of grind it out and use the run game to eat up clock, that goes against what Dallas is going to try to do. I know Javonte Williams has had a good year, and Detroit has an okay defense. They still have some holes. Hutchinson can get to the quarterback. They have issues at cornerback. Terrion Arnold is out. Kirby Joseph is out. So the defensive backfield is a little iffy for Detroit. It as a Lion fan, I'm picking the Lions just as a homer.
I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. This was really tough because, from an emotional standpoint, I would like to pick. I have a hard time choosing between these teams because I actually like them both, but it makes me a little nervous. We'll see how Amon-Ra does with that defense. Dallas feels like they kind of got their stuff together when nobody was watching.
Yeah.
It's
like everybody's bagging on Jerry Jones, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm just going to do what I do.
But you have to admit, for a bulk of the first part of the season, it didn't exactly look like they knew what they were doing. But those trades he made at the trade deadline seem to have helped. And they got the offense going. The Pickens move is paying off. So on to Sunday games. 9-3 Seattle Seahawks at the 4-8 Atlanta Falcons. Last week we mentioned JSN only 2 receptions for 23 yards. Not what you were looking for. Do you feel like he'll fare a little better against Atlanta?
Yeah. Can he fare worse, really? So
see Justin Jefferson's week.
Well, I got to say, I've got a little more confidence in Sam Darnold than I do Max Brosmer and J.J. McCarthy. No, A.J. Terrell ranks 55th out of 110, according to Pro Football Focus. Mike Hughes, the wily veteran, is the other cornerback. So it does feel like, JSN will be able to kind of right the ship. And often we see when a really high performing player kind of has a crap the bed game, they overcompensate to get back on track. So they're likely to target JSN off this game. The Atlanta, their rookie ends, Pierce and Walker, have been putting pressure on the quarterback. And we know Darnold can get rattled. The run game with Walker and Charbonnet is good enough, if not what we want for fantasy. They both are good running backs, if not great. AJ Barner's serviceable at tight end. And eventually I think Rashid Shaheed kind of pops off a little bit. So there are weapons in Seattle that allow, I think, say, okay, it was one game. Let's face it, he was a monster coming into last week, and some days you just have an off day.
Meanwhile, for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins hasn't been terrible, but hasn't been great. What do you think he can do to keep them in this one against a pretty good defense?
So he's QB 16 the last 2 weeks. If he's smart, he's going to continue to get the ball to Bijan Robinson. Tyler Algier will have his allotment of carries. Kyle Pitts honestly seems to have been the big winner in the Kirk Cousins rejuvenation, mostly because London has been out. Mooney's had a little bit of a comeback too. He's maybe flex worthy, but I think as long as they keep getting the ball to Bijan, I think will have 20 plus touches with 6 or 7 targets.
I am going to take the Seahawks.
So am I.
4-8 Cincinnati Bengals at the 8-4 Buffalo Bills. The Bengals are trying to make a run to the division. They really need to keep on winning. Can Burrow do anything to get over on the Bills defense?
So Burrow always has a puncher's chance, in my opinion. But honestly, they just don't have to be. I think Buffalo's defense, Chase Brown will, probably have one of those 60-yard games. He may catch a couple passes. I don't think is Higgins back this week? Still out.
Yep, T. Higgins is back.
So, they've got Higgins and Chase. So there is the chance that Cincinnati just puts up 40 points because Burrow pulls around. I don't know that I'm going to count on it. I think Burrow will have a good game. Chase and Higgins will both have decent games. Chase will have a real good game, and Higgins will have a decent game. I think if you're starting Chase Brown, you'll probably be okay with that. He'll probably be a low-end RB2 just because he'll catch 3 or 4 passes to go with his 15 carries. But Samaje Perine has been kind of cutting into that a little bit lately, and that always can create some consternation. But yeah, I know they have a puncher's chance. Let me keep using my boxer analogy.
Meanwhile, for Buffalo, it's been a poor few weeks in the pass offense. Do you think they can get it back going against the Bengals defense?
Against the Bengals defense with James Cook at running back, I'm not sure they have to get it going. I think Dalton Kincaid will have a decent game. Khalil Shakir will probably have. So I think Shakir will have a good target percentage. He'll be up there 25% target share. The issue I'm going to have is we may be looking at a 19 pass attempt game for Josh Allen. Unless Cincinnati puts up a ton of points, I think that the run game in Buffalo will grind it out.
This is a tough one. I'm going to take Buffalo, though. I think they get a win.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills, too.
I still think Cincinnati can make the playoffs. I think 8 and 9 might actually win that division the way things are going. I don't know if you've seen Baltimore and Pittsburgh's schedule down the stretch. It ain't great, Bob. The 1-11 Tennessee Titans at the 3-9 Cleveland Browns. Dennis, Tony Pollard, running back 32 on the season, not exactly what you were hoping for. He feels like he's kind of stuck in that kind of crappy offense all the way around. What are you doing if you roster him?
Man, it's like you're reading my show notes that I put on a different page. My note here is that Pollard is suffering as a function of the overall offense. I think the offense is making strides, but it's still bad. They don't have great wide receivers. I like their tight ends with Okonkwo and Helm. I do think that Pollard and Spears, and who knows, maybe Khalil Mullings gets into the mix a little bit this week, are serviceable, if not great. It's just going to come down to the growing pains with a rookie quarterback on a really bad team. And that's frankly what Tennessee is right now. And they don't have who was that? Not Mike Nolan. Jim Mora wasn't he the one who said, "Oh, we couldn't do diddly poo"? I think kind of that sums up the Tennessee offense. Diddly poo.
Diddly poo. Meanwhile, for the Browns, Shadur Sanders starting again. Much easier matchup than last week. How are you feeling about him?
Well, I like that they're kind of leaning into him a little bit, and they're not waffling. They basically said, "Look, we gave Dylan Gabriel 5 games, 6 games. We saw what he can do. We're going with Shadur the rest of the way. Let's see what he can do." After that inglorious 4 for 12 performance in relief of Gabriel, I do think that Shadur has been serviceable. I don't think he's a top 24 quarterback, even though he has been QB 22 the last 2 weeks. It has been based off of just a couple big plays. And maybe that's what we have to get used to. You know, they're going to grind it out with Quinshon Judkins, and because the offense isn't very good, Judkins is going to not be efficient, but he's going to have volume. Harold Fannin is going to, make a play for whatever reason. They haven't figured out. The defenses haven't figured out, hey, we better cover Fannin. Judy's been inconsistent. Tillman's been inconsistent since his return. We saw Isaiah Bond flash with Shadur. It's just kind of a team that doesn't have an offensive identity. And I think Stefanski would like it to be a ball control, play action passing identity. Whether or not Shadur gets him there, the jury is going to be out. Honestly, I don't think if Cleveland is within range of drafting Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore, I think they do.
I am taking the Browns.
I'm taking the Browns too, even though I think it pushes them out of the Mendoza Moore line. Now, that being said, they have 2 first-round picks, so if Tennessee is picking first, I think the Browns could go get that pick.
Next up, the Washington Commanders 3-9 at the 4-8 Minnesota Vikings. It looks like Jaden Daniels is tracking to play. Do we feel good about him?
Yeah. I mean, I think that Mariota has done all he can. And it'd be nice if he was winning more games. Going into where did Mariota go a couple years ago? And I was like, I feel like he needs to get a shot. And he got it in Atlanta. Yeah, and he face planted. So now I think, Mariota is he's a backup the rest of the way. He's a guy that if you're in this position, you're like, okay, well, we're probably not going to win a bunch of games if we have to go 10 games with Mariota at quarterback, but we're probably not going to embarrass ourselves week after week after week. Now, it also didn't help that for most of the time Mariota was in there, they didn't have Terry McLaurin. They lost Austin Eckler. Krosky Merritt and Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols, none of the 3 of them established themselves as having any sort of bell cow capability. So, they're just trying to piece the running game together. I think getting Jaden Daniels back is going to do wonders for the offense. Having Daniels, Samuel, Ertz, and McLaurin, I think gives them a chance. At 3-9, I don't think they make a run for the playoffs. But if you can win most of your games in these last 5 weeks, that's a good thing.
Yeah. On the flip side, it doesn't really matter who is at quarterback. I think it's going to be McCarthy again this week. It has been a tough sledding for Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. Even Jefferson this week said that 2025 has been rough. It's rough if you roster them too. How are you feeling about playing them?
Awful. Honestly, I have Jefferson in a league where I have Drake London out injured, and I have Marvin Harrison on that team, and Michael Wilson and CeeDee Lamb. It's a pretty stacked team. But I don't like being without London and Harrison and for all intents and purposes, Justin Jefferson. So I'm going to have to start him. But if I could go somewhere else, I don't think right now, like with Brosmer, he's not a top 24 wide receiver. Could he be? He could turn in. It only takes a couple receptions for him to get 80 or 90 yards and a touchdown or two. It isn't like he has to have 15 targets and 10 receptions to be productive in fantasy. But with Brosmer, you're just not seeing that capability. And for the most part, you don't see that with J.J. McCarthy either. That being said, maybe McCarthy comes back and plays better. Maybe he plays better because Washington is just kind of a Midland defense. So
I'm going to take Washington.
So am I.
Next up, the 5-7 Miami Dolphins at 3-9 New York Jets. Quietly, the Dolphins have kind of turned it around, but it hasn't really been thanks to their pass offense. Tua still only quarterback 22. Not a brutal matchup, but how are you feeling about Tua?
So I get it. He's QB 22. He's QB 36 in points per game. So, obviously you probably should throw out a few of those guys ahead of him that, only played 2 or 3 games. But, I mean, he's behind Mariota, Rattler, Geno, Tyrod in points per game. He's tied with J.J. McCarthy in points per game. That is not illustrious company. And it just, the offense is Devon Achane. And then if you roster Jalen Waddle, you're playing Waddle, but you're nervous that it could go sideways real quick. The only guy in Miami I'm really comfortable starting as a high-end asset is Achane. And then Waddle, I'd prefer to have him as a wide receiver 3 with upside, but you probably are rostering him as your wide receiver 2.
Meanwhile, the Jets' pass offense has been a little bit better with Taylor. We've seen Mechie and Adonai Mitchell have some moments. How are you approaching the Jets receivers?
Boy, just wait until they get a quarterback and Garrett Wilson comes back. If they decide to re-sign Breece Hall, they've got some talent on the offense. They just need somebody to run the show. And I get it. Tyrod has a certain set of skills that, unfortunately for me, are better than Justin Fields. They're sitting at 3-9. They're trying every bit as hard as Cleveland to be in the range to be able to get Mendoza or more as well. I think they've got 2 first-round picks too, if I remember correctly. Didn't they get one from Indianapolis? But Miami's middle of the pack versus the run and the pass. So they can, Breece can get some run there. Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie can be productive, and Mason Taylor. They just don't. Miami doesn't get many interceptions or many sacks, and so that bodes well for Taylor, who tends to be ultra conservative in the passing game. So there'll be some opportunity for the Jets. I just feel like, after trading away your top 2 defensive players, I feel like it's going to be the Dolphins taking this one.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Dolphins. The 2-10 New Orleans Saints at the 7-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Alvin Kamara listed as questionable. Hard to tell right now whether he will actually make it on the field or not. Hard to tell whether it's even going to really matter. How are you approaching this backfield?
if I can avoid it, I can. Unfortunately, you probably can't. And so I feel a lot better if Kamara gets ruled out. Then I know at least Devin Neal's going to get a decent opportunity share. He'll get vultured by Taysom Hill, in the red zone, I'm sure. There are other running backs. They're not really using much at all. If Kamara is healthy enough to be active, then it becomes kind of then I don't know that you really want to use either one of them. But I would find it, if Kamara is active and starting, I would find it hard to put him on my bench.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a couple of great years for Baker in Tampa Bay. This year started good, but he's kind of come down a little bit. Only quarterback 13 on the season at this point in time, a little bit lower than that on a points per game basis. Their pass offense has not been as robust recently, especially with Baker getting knocked around. How are we feeling about him and the passing game assets?
So they got Bucky Irving back, which is going to help give them some more balance. Irving coming back relegated Sean Tucker to the dustbin. Rachaad White will still get some play. Mike Evans, I think they opened up his 21-day window, trying to get him ready for the playoffs. Godwin is starting to round into form a little bit. Emeka Egbuka is having an awesome rookie year. Tez Johnson overperformed his draft capital this year. So Jalen McMillan has been on IR, and I think there was a expectation he was going to start the year as the third receiver. So they have some depth there, if not a lot of superstars after the first couple. If Baker gets time, if he's not getting hit, like we've seen, I think he has the ability to put up some big numbers. The challenge, I think, is going to be that it's a bad New Orleans Saints team. And much like Josh Allen and the Bills, are they going to need to throw the ball that much? Or will it just be Bucky Irving, up the middle for 25 and 160 and 2 touchdowns?
I am taking the Buccaneers. I think they will probably win this.
So am I.
Next up, the 8-4 Indianapolis Colts at the 8-4 Jacksonville Jaguars, a battle for first place in the AFC South. Dennis, after a hot start, Jonathan Taylor has cooled off recently, and the Jaguars defense actually pretty good against the run. So how are we feeling about him?
So I was like, we have these perceptions of teams, we follow some teams closer than others. And so when I was looking at the show sheet, I'm like, oh, Taylor's back. He's going to eat against Jacksonville. And then I looked and realized the Jaguars give up the fewest rushing yards per game in the NFL. I'm like, oh, wait, since the bye, Jonathan Taylor.
I wonder why Matt put it on the sheet.
Jonathan Taylor is averaging 11.9 points per game since the bye. Before the bye, he averaged 27.4 points. It's like, oh no. I think Taylor will, as long as they don't forget about him and try to get cute, if they can get him volume, I think he can be productive. Taylor is a very talented running back. He's one of those running backs that has enough talent that you play him against good teams too. Now, the other question I would ask is that, and I probably should have looked a little closer at it, is Jacksonville give up so few rush yards because they give up so much in the passing game? That's one of those other questions to.
They're not as good in the passing game, but they haven't been that bad. Let me see if I can pull up their number.
So, I like Taylor. Jacksonville, though, or Indiana, they've got so many good passing weapons that if something starts to seem like it's not working very well, i.e. the run game, it's easy to go, well, I've got Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren and Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, and I'm just going to do that.
Pass yards, they're 23rd. and they're 27th in passing TDs. So that's probably not that great. But I think it puts a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones, especially with his injured leg. Speaking of passing offense sadness, last year, Brian Thomas Jr. was a gift. This year, he's the kind of gift you'd like to return. Wide receiver 50 going into this game. Only 3 games this year with 10 or more fantasy points. He is only half a point overall on the season above Keon Coleman. What are we doing with Brian Thomas Jr.?
So last year he was a gift, but let's be clear. We can look back now and say he was a gift from Mac Jones. That was Mac Jones giving us that gift, clearly. I just, for the life of me, it just boggles my mind that Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence have such bad chemistry. I just don't get it. I mean, Thomas is a good receiver.
Shoot a couple of commercial bromances together where they're riding in golf carts like him and Travis Hunter.
I mean, at this point, they need to make a gay porn together so they can, they need to get closer than a bromance commercial. That's for damn sure.
I'm taking the Colts.
I'm going to go Jaguars.
You believe in that power. Big divisional matchup in the AFC North, 6-6 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 6-6 Baltimore Ravens. First of 2 matchups in these final 5 weeks. Aaron Rodgers did not have a lot of nice things to say about his pass catchers. There has been some seemingly bad energy with DK Metcalf, their best receiver who they acquired. He's only wide receiver 27. Hasn't really been coming up big the last few weeks. 2.6 points, 6.5 points, 9.9 points, 14.4 points because he got a touchdown, and then last week 6.2 points. How are we feeling about Metcalf?
Well, the Ravens give up the 9th most passing yards in the league. So they got that going for them. But much like Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence, the chemistry between Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf has not been there consistently. Mike Tomlin came out this week saying we need to get Jaylen Warren back, establishing his physical presence. And everybody looked around and said, he's 5'8" and 200 pounds, right?
Hey, what physical presence did he have? I think maybe Tomlin got confused and thought they still had Najee Harris.
I don't know. The Pittsburgh offense has it just and I don't know if it's Arthur Smith and his affinity for using 7 tight ends and whatnot, but it just isn't clicking consistently with the wide. I mean, DK Metcalf is 6'4". Surely Aaron Rodgers can get the ball close enough to him he can catch it. Surely Aaron Rodgers can throw it far enough that DK speed works. I mean, hell, use DK Metcalf like Detroit uses Jameson Williams. Get him on those crossers and let him run. He's a gazelle, albeit a moose-sized gazelle.
Meanwhile, on the other side, it has not been a great passing season for Baltimore, and it's been an uneven season.
You wouldn't know it by Mark Andrews' contract.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's been an uneven season for Andrews, but it feels like every time the Ravens need a big play in a big game, they still go to Andrews. He got a huge contract extension this week. Why do I feel like this is going to be a huge vintage Andrews game?
He just signed a contract. It's like they're going to have to, there's in the back of the mind, there's like, we should probably justify giving this 30-year-old tight end $26 million guaranteed over the next 3 years. I haven't, that was just my initial glance. I haven't looked deeper into the contract to see like, when can they really get out of it? But I do think it portends the departure of Isaiah Likely because they do like Charlie Kolar, and I think Charlie Kolar can play that second tight end role just fine. But you never know with the Ravens. They may go, you know what, we're keeping Isaiah Likely too. Zay Flowers leads the team in receptions. He's the number one receiver. And Andrews, at this point, he's touchdown dependent. He's not getting the volume and he's not getting the big yardage, but he is still relatively consistent in converting touchdowns. So, if you're okay with 2 for 27 and a touchdown, he's your guy.
I am taking the Ravens at home.
As am I.
On to the afternoon games, the 10-2 Denver Broncos at the 2-10 Las Vegas Raiders. RJ Harvey, since taking over the lead role, it was a little bit of a slow start, but kind of came on in their last game before last night on Sunday night. Got a couple of touchdowns. He is facing a Raiders defense that is 30th in the NFL in allowing rushing touchdowns. Do you think it could be another good game for RJ Harvey?
Yeah, and Harvey's a decent pass catcher too, so they can use him in both phases of the offense. And what the Denver offense is really missing is that tough runner that J.K. Dobbins was. Jaleel McLaughlin doesn't provide that. Tyler Badie doesn't provide that. And Harvey doesn't really provide it either. But Harvey provides explosiveness, and he's a good pass catcher, and he's going to get most of the volume, though, McLaughlin and it almost feels like McLaughlin's going to get about 9 throwaway carries. He'll be in there on plays where Sean Payton's like, we got to run a running play, and probably not going to go for anything. So
probably
let's
more like 5 or 6 carries at best. He only has 13 carries in 3 games.
So, better. I mean, they're your team.
Well, they also mix in Tyler Badie. So, I mean, combined, those guys might get 9 carries, but we'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm also hoping this is much better than their first matchup, which was one of the worst games of the season.
It wouldn't surprise me a bit though for Harvey to put up a 14 carry 80-yard game with a couple touchdowns, because we've seen him show a nose for the end zone, and he's going against a defense that gives up rushing touchdowns.
Speaking of running backs, Ashton Jeanty, there's been a little bit of dour criticism about what he's produced. I would say there's not great blocking. Doesn't feel likely to improve this week against a rush defense that's ranked at number 5. How are you feeling about Jeanty?
I think he's a flex play. His receiving is, he's probably an RB2. His pass receiving is keeping him fantasy viable, not because he's putting up a lot of yards, but he'll get 6 or 7 receptions. And if you're carrying the ball 15 times for 45 yards, and which is honestly being generous behind that line, and you're catching 6 passes for another 30 yards, that puts you in double digits, and that really has been his saving grace. I don't know if Pete Carroll makes it through the season. Maybe they end up deciding, hey, we're just going to stick with Carroll and Greg Olsen here and go one more year. They need to do something at the quarterback position. Geno isn't the guy. I don't think O'Connell or Pickett are the guy long term. At 2-10, they're probably right now they're in play for one of the top 2 quarterbacks. Whether or not they actually draft one, whole nother question. But
Jeanty did actually do pretty well the first time against the Broncos. I had to go look it up. 60 yards and a touchdown. That was one of the worst games they've had against a running back, and had 3 receptions. So maybe there's hope. But I'm taking Denver.
So am I.
If the Broncos win, they will be the number one seed in the AFC because apparently we own the tiebreaker over New England. So I may or may not have gone on the playoff machine today and played my way to Denver in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying I believe it's going to happen, but I'm saying I'm ready to get hurt again.
Well, if I remember correctly, didn't I pick Denver to win it in the preseason?
I think you were higher on them than me, and I was a little skeptical, but we'll see. Denver and New England both have a couple of tough matchups, but I could see them if they lose the same number of games for the rest of the way. Apparently, Denver owns the tiebreaker, and you know why? Because they beat the Raiders and New England lost to the Raiders. That was what I read. That made me laugh a little bit. It's something about common opponents, but 9-3 Chicago Bears at the 8-3-1 Green Bay Packers. I know in the heart of hearts you'd like for both of these teams to lose, but probably not going to happen. The Bears won by going really run heavy last week. Do you think they will try that again against Green Bay?
I think they will toy with the idea, but the Packers give up the third fewest fantasy points to running backs, but they do give up receptions and receiving yards to running backs. So it's more likely, in my opinion, that they're going to throw the ball to try to win, but they'll have to keep the Packers off balance. Right now, Caleb Williams is still playing in chaos, and Micah Parsons generates chaos in that backfield. And they to have Caleb Williams, go have a session with Stay Calm Barkley to be able to sort of pull himself in and not try to overdo it. That being we're going to try, but it happens.
Sorry, I think I lost you a little bit there. I am picking the Packers in this one. I think we lost Dennis here a little bit, but when he pops back up, we'll see who he is taking. The last of the afternoon games, the 9-3 Los Angeles Rams at the 3-9 Arizona Cardinals. Rams coming off that tough loss to the Carolina Panthers last week. We saw a little bit more of a split in the backfield. I'm sure that is something that they will be trying to go for a little bit more this week. But if I have Blake Corum, I am probably not. I am probably not putting him in. It's hard to trust. I think I'm still going to roll with Kyren Williams. I just believe he in the passing game elements will probably be a little bit better. Meanwhile, for Arizona, it looks like Trey Benson is tracking to return. He has been out on IR for a little while. He hasn't been totally practicing, but there is still a chance he comes back. I think if he does come back, I would actually consider throwing him in a flex position. But Dennis, if Trey Benson gets activated for the Cardinals, how are you feeling about him?
He's got to be better than what they've been getting, right?
Bam Knight wasn't terrible last week. I don't know if it's a great matchup, but it did feel like Carolina ran pretty well with both their backs against the Rams, so maybe there is opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Benson provides explosiveness that Bam Knight doesn't have. My apologies. I don't know why my internet just crashed right there, but I appreciate you covering for me.
Well, it was a it was a diehard Bears fan, and it just really wasn't appreciating the analysis. I assume you were taking the Packers in that.
I was not. I'm taking the
You're taking the
Bears.
Bears. Ooh, there's gonna be some interesting. So maybe it was the Packers fans that cut out.
Yeah. No, I like Benson's skill set. I liked him coming out of college. He's just been buried behind James Conner. And then, after Conner talked him up all preseason, we're like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And then Conner gets hurt and Benson gets hurt. And it's like, well, we're not going to see what happens there. Having Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, I think, has done wonders for the Cardinals team. It's provided them with, I think, a more viable passing game, which theoretically, if your passing game is better, you should give you an opportunity to be more balanced with the run game. So, again, I think Bam Knight is serviceable. He's a Jag. He's a hashtag 2 to 3 year window guy. And, Michael Carter's the same way. They're less talented than Trey Benson.
I'm taking the Rams. I just don't see them losing 2 in a row.
I'm taking the Rams because I just don't see them losing to the Cardinals.
The 7-5 Houston Texans at the 6-6 Kansas City Chiefs Sunday Night Football. Dennis, we know Nico Collins is the number 1 there for Houston. He's sitting as wide receiver 12, but you commented on Tuesday, it feels like Christian Kirk kind of disappeared. Maybe Jaden Higgins coming on. Outside of Collins, how are you approaching the receivers? And is there any of them that you're feeling good about putting in the lineup?
So I think you can flex Higgins. He staked his claim to the wide receiver 2 spot there. He's tied with Nico Collins in receiving touchdowns for the team lead at 4. And CJ Stroud and, Davis Mills, for that matter, have confidence in him. So fire him up as a flex. That being said, we may get a wild bounce back week from Christian Kirk. I thought when he didn't have any stats last week, I'm like, oh, he must have been inactive or something. But no, he played 37% of the snaps. And it's like, wow, that's wild. But, I don't think Christian Kirk is long for the team. I think Jalen Noel takes his spot on the depth chart, and they've got Collins, or not Collins. They have Collins, but they've got Higgins, and they like Xavier Hutchinson, who Hutchinson and Higgins are pretty close in production as they've filled in covering for injuries over the course of the season. Dalton Schultz is putting in his best Jason Witten catch and fall high volume tight end reception season. So they have some weapons in the passing game. Love Nico Collins. Give me Jaden Higgins in the flex.
Meanwhile, Kansas City, it's getting late early, 6-6. They kind of win them all. What do they need to do to be able to get a win here?
Well, it isn't great that they lost their starting left tackle, first-round draft pick Josh Simmons for the rest of the season. The running game isn't great. It's put up some numbers, but Kareem Hunt has been pretty inefficient. Rashee Rice came back and said, no, I'm the captain now to all those other wide receivers, and it has been very productive. Houston has a monster defense. They get after the quarterback. And Mahomes is going to have to make some plays with his feet. Maybe not necessarily running for yardage, but escaping the pocket when there's pressure. And that's where him and Kelsey kind of have that mojo going on. And if they can recreate that, it'll be good for the Chiefs. Honestly, it's one of those games where Houston has to overcome mediocre production from CJ Stroud. And honestly, I think they do. I'm taking the Texans.
I'm going to take the Chiefs. Another thing to monitor, Jawan Taylor, their tackle, and guard Trey Smith also not practicing. So I'm not feeling good about it. It's hard for me to imagine the Chiefs not being in the playoff mix. And I don't know. Monday Night Football, the 8-4 Philadelphia Eagles at the 8-4 Los Angeles Chargers. AJ Brown, since telling his fantasy owners they should drop him, has really been going off. But Devonta Smith not doing too bad either. How are we feeling about them in this matchup?
So the Eagles' passing production is going to come down to if they take shots early to try to get up, then that's good for you. Or if they have to play from behind and have to throw the ball, that's good for you. This feels like let me caveat this. If Justin Herbert starts, I feel a lot better about the Eagles having to play catch up or play keep up than I do if Trey Lance starts. But it wouldn't surprise me, given the mediocre season that Saquon Barkley is having, at least by last year's standards, that the Eagles take a couple shots early and they take them with A.J. Brown and maybe score a couple touchdowns early, get him out hot, make him feel good, and then, they try to grind it out later.
Meanwhile, we might see Omarion Hampton back for the Chargers. They're still a little non-committal Monday night game. How are we approaching the backfield for the Chargers?
It makes me nervous to try to wait and see, am I getting RB1 volume out of Kamani Vidal, or am I getting timeshare because he's splitting time with Hampton? Or am I getting backup running back production because, Omarion Hampton is their RB1 and, he's healthy and they're going to use him. There isn't anybody else playing Monday night that you can probably go pick up and have as a stash. So, unless it's a wide receiver option on a team that's a fantasy team that's really deep at wide receiver, maybe then you hedge your bets with Vidal and or Hampton and see how it plays out. And if you still feel unsure, you play the bench wide receiver. Vidal has been consistently inconsistent. He's put up big numbers every other game, literally every other game. Under 10 points, around 20 points, under 10 points, around 20 points. And we're headed towards a under 10 points game. So do with that what you will.
I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm going to take the Eagles too because I'm not sure about Herbert.
No, and he still doesn't have any blocking. So even if he starts the game, what happens? I know Jalen Carter's not playing, but it's two kind of enigmatic teams too. Should be spectacular. That'll do it for this week. We're going to rush out to watch Detroit and Dallas here in a few minutes. But Dennis, what can the people do if they need something to fill their time?
Head on over to your favorite podcast platform. Hit that search bar, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like. Listen to all of our episodes. Listen. Do me a favor. Listen so much that next year on your Spotify Wrapped, we pop up.
There you go. And on Saturday, your team's playing for the Big Ten championship.
They are.
Should be a good one because Indiana the only other undefeated team, right? So
not after Saturday.
There you go. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Hope all your teams do well in what's probably the last week of the fantasy season for most of us. We will see you on Tuesday.
Go Bucks.